Did you know that on average, black men in the United States receive sentences about 19% longer than white men for similar offenses? Even more troubling, 15.8% of black students report facing race-based bullying or harassment in schools. Meanwhile, black-owned businesses, especially those started by women, are growing 6 times faster than the national average, leading in the entrepreneurial space. Despite all the progress, America's legacy of racial discrimination still casts a long shadow. Determining the most racist towns in America is challenging, and opinions vary widely. For some, even a comprehensive list feels incomplete. For others, any list at all feels uncomfortable. This video presents a collection of towns often spotlighted for racial tension, drawing from statistical data, personal stories, and historical context. If you see your town mentioned, it's an opportunity to reflect and maybe even champion change. After all, when we learn more, we can do better. Stick around until the end for surprising trivia about place names with unique histories. First on our list is Harrison, Arkansas. This small town, located near the Missouri border, has gained a reputation as one of the most racially charged areas in the United States. Bob Bliss's viral video, holding a Black Lives Matter sign in America's most racist town, highlighted 3 days of hostility with verbal abuse and threats directed at him, despite being white. Harrison's history, unfortunately, aligns with this reputation. In the early 1900s, the town was nearly empty to black residents during violent race riots. To its credit, Harrison has been working to reframe its identity. The Community Task Force on Race Relations, formed in 2003, has led initiatives to remove racially offensive billboards and foster a more inclusive environment. Next, we travel to Anchorage, Alaska, where indigenous Alaskans face pervasive, yet often overlooked discrimination. Though they make up around 16% of the state's population, Alaska Natives represent 29% of all homicide victims. Anchorage accounts for a significant portion. Resources to address crimes against indigenous women are limited, highlighting systemic gaps. Tragically, many families are left without closure. Educational disparities also persist. Alaska Native students and black students in Anchorage's school district face higher rates of academic failure, reflecting broader issues in access to resources and support. Our third stop is Leith, North Dakota. This tiny town became infamous in 2012 when white nationalist Craig Cobb attempted to turn it into a stronghold by purchasing multiple properties and inviting like-minded individuals to join him. The residents, including Bobby Harper, Leith's sole black resident, fought back vigorously. This resistance led to a legal struggle and eventually forced Cobb to leave, but not before the town's name became associated with hate. This story, captured in the PBS documentary, Welcome to Leith, demonstrates the resilience of a small community committed to rejecting hatred and intolerance. Surprisingly, Fresno, California also makes this list. Known as a tale of two cities, Fresno's west side, predominantly Latino and black, suffers from neglect, with deteriorating infrastructure and schools lacking essential resources. This contrast is no accident. Historical practices like redlining limited opportunities for minority residents, leaving a legacy that Fresno is only beginning to confront. Local activists and residents are now calling for change and investment in these historically marginalized neighborhoods. In Texas, Vidor stands out as a former sundown town, where black Americans were once prohibited after dark. The town's attempts to shed this reputation have been mixed. While some residents support progress, others resist change. In 2020, a Black Lives Matter march in Vidor marked a step toward reconciliation, yet also underscored lingering tensions. The march showed both progress and the challenges that lie ahead. Our sixth stop is Wilcox County, Georgia, where traditions held tight. Up until 2014, some local schools continued the practice of segregated proms. A group of brave students, 2 black and 2 white, decided to put an end to this by organizing an integrated prom. Their efforts drew national attention and sparked important conversations about race in Georgia's rural areas. Now, let's look at Crown Heights, Brooklyn, a New York neighborhood with a long history of racial and cultural tension. In the 1990s, the area experienced major race riots between black and Jewish communities. Anti-Semitic incidents have since persisted, with concerns about how they're addressed by authorities. Crown Heights remains a complex microcosm of the racial issues that continue to challenge even the most diverse cities. Moving to the Midwest, Milwaukee, Wisconsin is another unexpected entry. Wisconsin often ranks as one of the best places to live. Yet Milwaukee holds troubling statistics. The city's black students face suspension at much higher rates than their white peers, and black men are incarcerated at a rate higher than in any other U.S. city. Milwaukee's segregation and racial inequalities underscore the need for change, despite its reputation as a friendly, inclusive city. Finally, we land in Honolulu, Hawaii, a paradise with a history often overlooked. Indigenous Hawaiians and other minority groups still face social and economic challenges. The U.S. acquisition of Hawaii left lingering cultural and racial tensions that affect native Hawaiians today. While Honolulu is a beautiful destination, its diverse communities continue to call for equity and recognition. These towns may vary widely, but they share one thing in common: the potential for transformation. Recognizing the weight of history is the first step toward a more inclusive future. And remember, sometimes change begins with individuals willing to make a difference right where they are. Before you go, here's a fun history fact. Have you ever wondered about the origin of the name Atlanta? Atlanta was named Terminus in 1837, representing the end of the line for the Western Atlantic Railroad, which was being built at the time. In 1843, it was named Marthasville, after the then governor's daughter. In 1845, the name was changed yet again to Atlanta Pacifica by the chief engineer of the Georgia Railroad. By the time the first train arrived at the terminus, the name was shortened to Atlanta, the feminine form of Atlantic.